The first thing I heard wasn't the words. It was the laughter, that particular, sharp, champagne flute kind of laughter that comes from young throats feeling clever and cruel. It sliced through the gentle hum of my coffee maker and the morning bird song in my own sunlit kitchen. I was in the hallway, just out of sight, holding my good ceramic mug, the one with the painted bluebirds my late husband Gerald gave me. My grandson, Lyndon, and his new wife, Jocasta, were in the living room. They thought I was still upstairs, deaf as a post and slow as January molasses. "Just sign it, Lynn," Jocasta said, her voice a smooth, polished stone. "The power of attorney is just a formality for her own good." "She's old. She won't understand the legalese anyway," Lyndon replied, and the ease in his voice, the utter dismissal, was a physical blow. My breath hitched. "She's old. She won't understand." I leaned my forehead against the cool, wallpapered wall. 78 years old, a widow for 5, a mother for 50, a grandmother for 28. I'd built a life, a home, raised a son who then gave me this stranger in a designer sweater with my grandson's face. Before we begin, drop a comment below with your country and what time it is right now where you're watching. Whether it's sunrise in Nairobi, midnight in Australia, afternoon in Canada, or evening in France. I want to know. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't just sit back. Tell me where in the world you are. Now, let's dive into the story. They'd moved in 3 months ago. "Just temporarily, Gran," Lyndon had said, his arm around Jocasta's slender waist. "The condo flood was a nightmare. We just need a bridge." Their bridge had expensive tastes. My grocery bills had tripled. My good wine vanished. My quiet evenings were replaced with their streaming shows, loud and violent, flashing blue light against my familiar walls. And now this, a bridge straight to my bank account. I closed my eyes. I saw Gerald's hands, rough from the workshop, smoothing the wood of the bookshelf he built me. I saw the ledger where I tracked every penny of the bakery we ran for 40 years. I wasn't some senile figure in a rocking chair. I was Alara Finch. I balanced books while listening to the Beatles on a crackling radio. I understood compound interest, mortgage rates, and the quiet pride of a paid-off home. The laughter bubbled up again. I pushed off the wall. My slippers whispered on the hardwood as I walked, not into the living room, but past it, to the small, neat study Gerald had built off the kitchen. They didn't hear me. They were too busy planning their clean future with my dirty money. My computer, a sleek laptop Lyndon had generously set up for me to keep your mind sharp, Gran, hummed to life. The screen glowed in the dim study. I opened the browser. My fingers, which they probably thought could only knit shawls, danced across the keyboard. I navigated to the website of First Merchants Trust. I typed in my username. I hesitated over the password. It was Gerald's birthday and our anniversary, dates they'd never bothered to learn. I clicked Log In. The dashboard appeared. There it was, our life's work. The savings from the bakery sale, the pension, the modest investments, the money meant to see me through and maybe leave a little something for Lyndon, a nest egg they were already counting their chickens from. My heart was a frantic bird against my ribs, but my mind was cold, clear. I navigated to account services. I found temporary account restrictions. I clicked. The screen asked for a reason. My cursor blinked. I typed, "Suspected unauthorized access." I hit enter. A confirmation screen popped up. Your request to freeze all assets in savings and checking account number XXXX7890 is being processed. Please call our priority line to confirm. I picked up my cell phone, an old flip model they mocked. I dialed the number from memory. A pleasant automated voice answered. I pressed buttons, entered my account number, my PIN. A real person came on the line. First Merchants Trust, this is Sheila. How can I help you? I took a steadying breath. My voice, when it came out, didn't sound 78. It sounded like a woman who had run a business, raised a family, and buried the love of her life. It was firm, unshaken. Yes, hello, Sheila. This is Elara Finch. I've just initiated a freeze online. I'd like to confirm it immediately, and I'd like to set up a new, separate account, effective today. As I spoke, I heard the shuffle of feet in the living room. Gran, Lyndon called, his voice tinged with false warmth. We were thinking of going for brunch at the bistro, our treat. I covered the phone's mic. My eyes stayed on the screen, on the word frozen that now flashed under my account balance. A small, hard smile touched my lips. That sounds lovely, dear, I called back, my voice as sweet as pie. Just let me finish my coffee. The phone call took 7 minutes. 7 minutes where Sheila from First Merchants Trust, with her patient, professional voice, helped me erect a digital fortress. By the time I hung up, my main accounts were in a deep freeze, and a new, secret account, with only my name on it, had been created. The transfer of a modest, immediate cushion of funds was pending. My hand trembled only once, when I had to confirm my Social Security number. Not from fear, from fury. A clean, cold fury that focused my mind better than any double espresso. Gran, you in here? Lyndon's silhouette filled the study doorway. He was handsome, my grandson. Had his grandfather's jawline, but none of the steadiness in the eyes. Jocasta hovered behind him, a smile painted on her face that didn't reach her calculating gaze. Just paying a bill online, dear, I said, smoothly clicking the browser window closed. The screen faded to a photograph of Gerald and me at the coast, windswept and happy. You mentioned brunch. The bistro, Jocasta said, gliding into the room. She touched the edge of my desk, a proprietary gesture. They do a fantastic Eggs Benedict and mimosas. We thought it would be a nice treat. Her eyes scanned the desk, the closed laptop, as if trying to decipher the ghosts of my actions in the reflective surface. How lovely, I said, rising slowly, leaning on the desk for effect. The frail old woman act was my armor now. You two go on ahead. I've got a bit of a headache coming on. All this screen time, you know? I gave a vague wave at the laptop. Lyndon's face fell into a mask of concern, so convincing it broke my heart a second time. Oh no, Gran, are you sure? We don't mind waiting. Positive, I said, brushing past them, the scent of Jocasta's expensive perfume cloying in the air. You young people go enjoy. I'll just have some toast and lie down. I shuffled to the kitchen, feeling their eyes on my back. I heard the low murmur of their conversation in the hall. A minute later, the front door closed. The silence they left behind was different now. It was charged. It was mine. I didn't make toast. I poured the rest of my now lukewarm coffee and went to the living room. The power of attorney papers lay on the coffee table next to a sleek silver pen. I didn't touch the papers. To touch them would be to acknowledge their reality. Instead, I sat in my wingback chair, Gerald's chair, and I watched the sunlight move across the rug. I planned. The freeze was step 1.
a delaying tactic. It would cause a shock, but not a fatal one. They'd assume a bank error, a glitch. They'd come to me, full of performative concern, offering to help straighten it out. That's when I'd need step 2. I needed a lawyer. Not the family firm Lyndon might use. Someone else. Memory, my old and stubborn friend, provided a name. Soren Vanguard. He'd been a young, ferocious attorney who helped Gerald and me with a predatory supplier contract decades ago. He was retired now, I thought, but I had his card, tucked in the back of my late husband's Rolodex, a relic I'd kept for sentiment. I found it in the study, the small, rotating file box, smelling of aged paper and cedar. Vanguard, Soren. Home and office numbers in elegant raised print. The office number was surely defunct. I tried the home number on my flip phone, half expecting a disconnect signal. It rang and rang. Just as I was about to give up, a gruff, tired voice answered. Vanguard? Mr. Vanguard, this is Elara Finch. You represented my husband, Gerald Finch, and me regarding the flour mill supply contract in 1998. A long pause. I could almost hear the gears turning in an old, sharp mind. Finch, the bakery. Gerald built those cherrywood shelves in my library. How is he? He passed 5 years ago. Another pause, shorter this time. I'm sorry to hear that. He was a good man. What can I do for you, Mrs. Finch? I'm mostly retired. I believe, I said, my voice dropping even though I was alone, someone is attempting to financially coercively separate me from my assets. My grandson and his wife. They're living with me. They've just presented me with a power of attorney to sign. The line was so quiet I thought we'd been cut. Then Soren Vanguard's voice came back. Different now. Awake. Focused. The legal pit bull I remembered. Do not sign anything. Have you taken any steps? I froze my primary accounts this morning. I heard what might have been a chuckle. Dry as autumn leaves. Good girl. Can you get out of the house safely without raising suspicion? I think so. My old office, 42 Palmer Street, downtown. The building is still there. I keep the space for old time's sake. Can you be there at 2 p.m.? Bring the documents, any financial statements you can safely access. We'll talk. I'll be there, I said. I told them I was going to my book club when they returned, brimming with the energy and gossip of brunch. It was a Tuesday. I never had book club on a Tuesday. They didn't know that. They barely knew the rhythm of my weeks. That's nice, Gran, Lyndon said, barely looking up from his phone. Need a ride? I'll drive myself, I said, holding up my keys. Keep the mind sharp. Downtown was a 20-minute drive through tree-lined suburbs that gradually tightened into older brick buildings. Palmer Street was a row of historic low-rises. Suite 42 was on the second floor. The door was plain, dark wood, with a frosted glass window that simply read, Vanguard. I knocked. Soren Vanguard was older than God and looked as tough as old leather. He was tall, stooped, with a wild mane of white hair and eyes the color of flint behind thick glasses. He ushered me into an office that was a time capsule. Oak filing cabinets, a green banker's lamp, shelves of thick legal volumes. It smelled of dust, old paper, and pipe tobacco. Sit, he said, pointing to a client chair. He didn't mince words. Show me. I handed over the power of attorney papers. He scanned them,
his lips moving slightly. He grunted. Broad as a barn door. Gives them control over everything. Financial, property, medical. Standard predatory template. They have you sign this. Next step is helping you into a nice, affordable care home while they liquidate. He looked at me over his glasses. You said you froze your accounts. Smart. But that's a flare gun. They'll come looking for the fire. We need to build a bunker. For an hour, we talked. I told him about Lyndon's change since meeting Jocasta, the temporary stay, the disappearing funds, the conversation I had overheard. He listened, taking sparse notes on a yellow legal pad. You have 3 advantages, he said, ticking them off on bony fingers. 1, you acted first. 2, they underestimate you profoundly. 3, you're in your own home. The home is the battlefield. Do you want to evict them? The word hung in the dusty air. Evict my grandson. My throat tightened. I saw him as a boy, building forts in this very living room. I don't know if I can. Then we prepare for siege, Soren said, no judgment in his voice. We make you untouchable. We update your will immediately. We set up irrevocable trusts for your core assets, the house, the remaining savings, with a third-party trustee, me, if you'll have me. It becomes legally inaccessible to them or to anyone claiming to act on your behalf. We draft a new ironclad power of attorney appointing a neutral party, a bank trust officer perhaps, contingent upon a medical diagnosis of incapacity by 2 independent physicians, not just any doctor. He leaned forward. This is war, Elara. It's quiet, paper-based war, but it's war. Are you prepared to fight it? I looked at Gerald's picture on my keychain. I thought of the laughter from the living room. She's old. She won't understand. I met Soren's flinty gaze. Yes, I said. Let's build the bunker. The siege began not with a bang, but with a declined debit card. It happened that evening. Jocasta was trying to order clothes online. Gran, called Lyndon from the den, a strained note in his voice. There's something weird with the bank. Jocasta's card is being declined. I was knitting, or pretending to. Oh dear, I said, not looking up from the yarn. Maybe it's a fraud alert. The banks are so jumpy these days. It's saying the account is restricted. Can you call them? In the morning, dear, I said placidly. My ears get so tired on those automated systems after dinner. I saw them exchange a look, a flicker of irritation, then a mask of patience, the first crack. The next morning, I called the bank from the study with the door closed. I actually called Soren. We had our story straight. I emerged looking worried. It's a security freeze, they said, because of suspicious activity. They need me to come in person to the branch with 2 forms of ID to sort it out. Lyndon pounced. We'll take you. Today. No need, no need, I fluttered. It's such a bother. I'll go next week. Gran, this is important, Jocasta said, her voice honeyed but firm. If there's fraud, we need to protect you. We'll all go. This afternoon. It wasn't an offer. It was a directive. So that afternoon, we went to the First Merchants Trust branch on Oak Avenue. Lyndon guided me by the elbow, a gesture that felt less supportive and more custodial. We were shown to a manager's office, Mr. Armas, a neat man in his 40s. Lyndon launched into an explanation about his poor grandmother's account issues. Mr. Armis listened, then looked directly at me. Mrs. Finch, for security, I need to speak with the account holder alone initially. Bank policy. Lyndon spluttered. But I'm her grandson. We're handling her affairs. I understand, sir. It will just be a moment. Mr. Armis's smile was polite and immovable. Soren had made a call. The bunker had sentries. Inside the office, Mr. Armis's demeanor changed. Mrs. Finch, I've been briefed by Mr. Vanguard. Your accounts are frozen per your instruction. The new account is active. What would you like to do? Maintain the freeze, I said quietly. Tell them the security review is complex. It will take 7 to 10 business days. And give me a new debit card for the new account, please. He nodded. I'll also note that you have expressly forbidden any third-party access or changes without your in-person authorization with a pre-established password. He handed me a form. I wrote the password, Bluebird 1965, the year Gerald and I opened the bakery. When I emerged, I put on a show of being flustered. Oh, it's so complicated. A whole review. They said it'd take a week or two. Such a nuisance. Lyndon's face was pale with suppressed anger. Jocasta's smile was frozen. The first real blow had landed. Their bridge was looking very, very shaky. The atmosphere in the house turned glacial. The performative kindness evaporated, replaced by a tense, watchful silence. They stopped including me in meals. They ordered takeout with cash Lyndon had from who knows where, and ate in their converted sunroom, now a sleek modern office space that had once been my potting shed. I used the time. Under Soren's guidance, I executed the new will and the trusts. Signing the papers in his office, with a sharp-eyed notary public as witness, felt like laying cornerstones. My house, my remaining savings, the royalties from Gerald's old woodworking pattern designs, all were placed into a trust I controlled, but which was designed to be untouchable by predators. The new power of attorney was drafted, naming a trust officer at First Merchants as my agent, under strict conditions. Soren kept copies in his vault. I became a ghost in my own home. I heard them arguing at night behind their closed door, hisses about dead ends and useless. Once, I heard Jocasta clearly, "You said this would be easy. She's just a lonely old woman." The hurt had long ago been cauterized by the cold iron of my resolve. Now, it just fueled the engine. I began my own reconnaissance. While they were out one day, job hunting, a fiction I no longer believed, I went into the sunroom office. I didn't touch their computers, but on the desk, in a tray, were envelopes, past due notices for Lyndon's leased car, a final demand for Jocasta's credit card, a letter from a collections agency for a condo association fee. So their old place had been foreclosed on, not flooded. The evidence of their drowning finances was laid bare. They weren't building a bridge. They were looking for a life raft. My life's work. I took pictures of each document with my flip phone, the process clumsy and slow. Then I placed them back exactly as they were. Proof, for Soren and for me. The final piece came from an unexpected ally, my neighbor, Astrid. She was 82, sharp as a tack, and missed nothing. She came over under the guise of returning a pie dish, her eyes bright behind large glasses. "Alara," she said, lowering her voice on the front porch, "I don't mean to meddle, but that grandson of yours and that wife, they had a moving van here yesterday while you were at your book club." She made air quotes. They were loading things into it, boxes. that nice stained glass lamp from your parlor, your set of silver serving trays. My blood ran cold. They weren't just waiting for the money, they were already looting the place. I confronted them that evening, not with fury, but with a calculated, wounded confusion. It was a harder performance than silence. Astrid mentioned she saw a moving van yesterday. She thought we might be moving. How odd. Lyndon muted the television. Jocasta's posture went rigid. "Oh, that," Lyndon said, forcing a laugh. "Yeah, Jocasta's cousin is storing some things for us, just clearing out clutter from the sunroom to make my office better." "My mother's silver trays are clutter?" I asked, my voice trembling just right. Jocasta stood up, her face a mask of placation. "Gran, we would never. They're just in a box for safekeeping. We know how much you cherish them. It's so crowded in here. We were worried something might get damaged." "I want them back," I said, sounding frail and stubborn. "And the lamp. They belong in this house. Please, bring them back tomorrow." The look that passed between them was pure venom. But they nodded. "Of course, Gran. It was just a misunderstanding," Lyndon said. The next day, the items reappeared, carelessly placed in the front hall. The lamp had a new crack in its base. The betrayal was no longer just financial. It was intimate. They were picking my life apart, room by room, memory by memory. The bunker needed to become a fortress. I called Soren. "They're stealing physical property, now." "Then we change the locks," he said bluntly. "But not all at once. Do you have a safe room? A study with a solid door?" "The main floor's steady. Gerald installed a deadbolt." "Good. Tomorrow, during an errand, have a locksmith meet you. Change the lock on that door only. Get a keyless electronic one if you can, with a code only you know. Move anything of immense personal or financial value in there. Documents, jewelry, heirlooms. Do it subtly, over time. Then, that room becomes your sovereign territory." The next day, I claimed a sudden desire for the library. While I was out, a discreet locksmith, arranged by Soren, met me. We returned to the house. Lyndon and Jocasta were at a job interview. And in 20 minutes, the study had a new, heavy-duty keypad lock. I set the code, the date the bakery turned its first profit. Inside, I began the slow, secret migration of my life. My marriage certificate, Gerald's war medals, my mother's pearls, the deed to the house, the new trust documents. Each item felt like a repatriated prisoner of war. That night, I couldn't find the key to the study. "Oh, Gerald must have had a special one," I fretted. "The door seems to be stuck. How strange." I saw Jocasta try the handle later, her face tightening when it didn't budge. Another barrier, another silent declaration of war. The bank's security review period expired. Lyndon drove us back to First Merchants Trust, a forced cheer in his voice. "Finally, get this all sorted, Gran." Mr. Armas saw us again. This time he had a somber expression. "Mrs. Finch, the review is complete. However, due to the complex nature of the alerts and potential internal concerns, the account restrictions will remain in place pending a longer audit. We've also noted irregularities in spending patterns prior to the freeze that require investigation." He looked pointedly at Lyndon. "Large cash withdrawals, rushed wire transfer attempts. It's for your grandmother's protection." Lyndon exploded. "This is ridiculous. What irregularities? I am her family. She needs access to her money for her care." Mr. Armas remained calm. "Mrs. Finch has full access via verified in-person requests. The freeze is on electronic and third-party access for her security." He slid a branded envelope across the desk. "Your new secured debit card, Mrs. Finch. PIN mailed separately to your address of record." It was a masterpiece of bureaucratic obstruction. Lyndon was fuming, helpless. In the car, he gripped the steering wheel so tight his knuckles were white. "This is insane, Gran. We need to get you a new bank. This one is incompetent." "Oh, I don't know, dear," I said, gazing out the window. "They've been my bank since 1965. I trust them." That was the night the facade fully crumbled. I was in the kitchen making tea when their argument boiled over from the sunroom. "We're out of time, Lyndon." Jocasta's voice was a shrill whisper that carried. "My credit is destroyed. The car payment is 90 days past due. We have nothing. She's sitting on a gold mine, and we're playing nurse." "What do you want me to do, Jocasta? She won't sign the POA. The bank is on to us." "Then we make her. She's old and confused. We get a doctor to say she's incapable. Your mom's friend, that psychiatrist. We get a diagnosis. We get emergency guardianship. We don't have a choice anymore." The kettle whistled, a sharp, screaming sound that matched the scream in my soul. Emergency guardianship. They weren't just after my money, they were after my personhood, my freedom. The cold fury crystallized into something else, a fierce, primal will to survive. I didn't sleep. I sat in the dark in my bedroom, Gerald's watch in my hand. At dawn, I had my plan. If they were going for a medical play, I needed to be medically impeccable, and I needed witnesses. The next morning, I announced I was going for my annual physical. "Dr. Fenway likes to get the old folks in early," I chirped. "We'll come with you," Jocasta said instantly, her eyes alight with a new, predatory interest. "Don't be silly, it's just a checkup," I said. "You have your job hunt." Before they could insist, I left, dropping the name of a clinic across town. But I didn't go there. I went to see my actual longtime physician, Dr. Sharma. I told her everything: the power of attorney, the bank freeze, the moving van, the overheard plans for emergency guardianship. I showed her the pictures of the debt letters on my phone. Dr. Sharma, a practical woman in her 50s, listened with growing horror. "Ilara, this is financial and psychological abuse," she said firmly. "It's elder exploitation." "I need a document," I said. "A comprehensive assessment of my mental and physical capacity, something that states unequivocally that I am of sound mind, understand my financial situation, and am capable of making my own decisions." Dr. Sharma nodded. "We can do better than a letter. We'll do a full cognitive assessment, the MOCA test, a psychiatric evaluation, a physical workup. We'll get a neurologist colleague in for a consultation. We'll build a portfolio that would stand up in any court of law." She placed a hand on mine. "You're not the first patient I've seen this with, but you're the first who caught it before it was too late." For the next week, under the guise of doctor's appointments for my arthritis, I underwent a battery of tests. I memorized sequences, drew clocks, recalled word lists, and solved logic puzzles. I discussed current events, my financial planning, and my medical wishes. I was sharp, present, and utterly competent. Each report, each score was another brick in my fortress wall. Meanwhile, the pressure at home increased. They became short, neglectful. The grocery shopping stopped. The house grew cold because they forgot to pay the utilities bill they'd taken over. I paid it online from my new account and said nothing. I ate simple meals from cans I'd quietly stockpiled in my locked study. The siege was tightening, but my walls were holding. Then the summons came. Not from a court, from my own son. My son, Davis, Lyndon's father, lived 3 states away. Our relationship was cordial but distant, strained by time and his divorce. His call on a Tuesday afternoon was a surprise. "Mom, Lyndon's really worried about you," he said, his voice weary. "He says you're getting confused, resistant to help, that there are bank problems. Jocasta says you're hiding things, that you're not safe alone. I heart ached. They'd gotten to him, played the concerned family card. Davis, listen to me. I am not confused. They are trying to steal from me. They brought me a power of attorney to sign over everything. I heard them planning it. A long sigh on the line. Mom, Lyndon says you misunderstand. They're just trying to help. Maybe you shouldn't be in that big house alone anymore. Maybe a nice assisted living place where you'd have people. Davis! I cut in with my voice quivering with a raw emotion I didn't have to fake. They loaded my silver and my mother's lamp into a moving van and sold them. They are drowning in debt. They are not helping me. They are hunting me. Silence. Then doubtfully, he said that was a misunderstanding, that you get mixed up. They had poisoned the well. My own son didn't believe me. The loneliness that swept over me was more profound than any I'd felt since Gerald died. Come see for yourself, Davis. Come and look me in the eye and tell me I'm mixed up. I hung up. That was their next move. Isolate me. Turn my own child against me. They were playing a deeper, darker game than I'd imagined. I called Soren, my breath shallow. The son is in play, he grunted. They're laying the groundwork for a competency petition. The medical reports are ready. It's time to stop playing defense, Ilara. It's time to go on the offensive. How? I whispered. We serve them notice to quit the premises. An eviction is a civil matter, but it sends a powerful message. You are in charge. It also starts a legal paper trail of their residency and your desire for them to leave, which counters any claim that this is their home or that you're confused about their presence. It shows clear, deliberate action. The word again, eviction. It tasted like ash. But Davis's doubting voice echoed in my ears. Do it, I said. Soren had the notice delivered by a process server 2 days later. It was a 30-day notice to quit for tenants at will. Formal, cold, and absolute. The reaction was nuclear. Lyndon stormed into the living room where I was reading, the paper crumpled in his fist. His face was contorted with a rage I'd never seen. What is this? He yelled, throwing the paper at my feet. Jocasta stood behind him, her face pale with shock, then hardening into icy fury. It's a notice, I said, closing my book slowly. This is my house. I want you to leave. You can't do this. We're family. You're sick. You don't know what you're doing. I am not sick, I said, standing. My voice didn't shake. I have recent medical evaluations from Dr. Sharma and a neurologist stating my cognition is excellent. I know exactly what I'm doing. You came into my home to plunder it. You have 30 days. Jocasta stepped forward, her mask of sweetness gone, replaced by a viper's glare. You miserable old hag! After all we've done for you, we've put our lives on hold. You owe us. I owe you nothing, I said, looking at Lyndon. I loved you. I opened my home to you. You chose to betray that. Now get out. Lyndon's anger broke into something uglier. Contempt. You think you're so smart? Freezing accounts, changing locks. You're a pathetic, lonely old woman who's gonna die alone in this mausoleum. We were your last chance at not dying alone, and you're throwing it away over a few dollars. His words were meant to eviscerate, and they did. But they also solidified my resolve. This was the true face of the boy I'd loved. It was a death, but one I had to endure. 30 days, I repeated. I walked past them to my study.
I typed the code, 06-19-1967, heard the bolt snick open, went inside, and locked the world out. The house after that was a war zone of silence. They stopped pretending entirely. They ignored me. They played loud music late. They left messes. They were trying to break me, to make me rescind the notice out of sheer misery. But the locked study was my sanctuary. Inside, with Gerald's picture and the smell of old books, I found my strength. A week after the notice, they tried to force the study door. I heard them in the middle of the night, jiggling the handle, then the sound of metal on metal, a screwdriver maybe. I called the police from inside the room. 911, what's your emergency? This is Ilara Finch at 214 Sycamore Lane. There are intruders in my home, trying to break into the room I'm locked inside. I kept my voice panicked, frail. The police arrived in minutes, lights flashing blue and red through the window blinds. I heard the commotion, the shocked voices of Lyndon and Jocasta. This is my grandmother's house. It's a misunderstanding. I waited until I heard the officer's voice at the door. Ma'am, it's Officer Tallow. Are you safe? I unlocked the door and opened it just a crack, peering out with wide eyes. Lyndon and Jocasta stood in the hall in their robes, looking furious and embarrassed. 2 uniformed officers stood between us. They were trying to break in, I said, my voice trembling perfectly. I have a restraining order in process. A white lie, but Soren had filed the petition that afternoon. Officer Tallow, a woman with kind, tired eyes, looked at the scratch marks around the lock. She looked at my genuine fear, at the entitled anger on Lyndon and Jocasta's faces. Is this true, sir, ma'am? She's confused. This is our home, Lyndon insisted. The notice to quit and the eviction filing says otherwise, I said, handing Officer Tallow a copy Soren had given me through the crack in the door. She scanned it. Her demeanor changed. Sir, this is a civil matter, but attempting to force entry into a locked room in the home of the legal owner is not advisable. Ma'am, she said to me, do you feel safe with them in the home tonight? I looked directly at my grandson. No, I said, I do not. Officer Tallow turned to Lyndon and Jocasta. I can't remove you legally tonight, but I strongly suggest you find alternative accommodation. If there's another disturbance call, the situation will escalate. It was a warning shot across their bows. The law, for the first time, was visibly on my side. The next morning, they were gone. Bags packed, staying in a cheap motel, I assumed. The house was empty. The silence was no longer charged with hostility, but with a vast, echoing grief. I had won the battle, but the house felt like a tomb. I cried then, for the first time through all of it, great, heaving sobs for the grandson I had lost. The eviction hearing was in 2 weeks. Soren prepared me meticulously. We had the notice, the police report, the photos of the attempted break-in, the debt letters proving their motive, and crucially, my portfolio of medical assessments. We also had affidavits from Astrid and another neighbor about the moving van and the hostile atmosphere. Lyndon and Jocasta, representing themselves, looked haggard and out of their depth. They claimed they were caregivers, that I was erratic, that the notice was a result of my mental decline. When they presented a letter from a psychiatrist I'd never met, a friend of Davis's, declaring me potentially incapable based on family reports, Soren pounced. He entered my medical portfolio into evidence. He had Dr. Sharma testify via phone. The judge, a no-nonsense woman, listened to the conflicting evidence. She looked at the clear, legal notice, the police report, the undeniable proof of their financial distress. She looked at my calm, collected answers to her direct questions about my finances, my property, my wishes. Then, Soren played his ace. Your Honor, if I may, this is about more than tenancy. This is a protective action. Mrs. Finch is seeking a temporary restraining order against Mr. Lyndon Finch and Jocasta Reed for financial exploitation and elder abuse.
based on the attempted misappropriation of assets and the coercive power of attorney document. He submitted the petition. The judge's face grew stern. She looked at Lyndon. "Is it true you presented a power of attorney for your grandmother to sign while living in her home?" Lyndon flushed. "It was for her own good, to help manage things." "The document in question grants you unilateral control over all her assets and health decisions, correct?" "Well, yes, but the petition for the restraining order is granted pending a full hearing," the judge said, banging her gavel. "The eviction is upheld. You have 72 hours to remove all personal belongings from 214 Sycamore Lane. Failure to comply will result in a sheriff-assisted removal." She looked at me. "Mrs. Finch, the court finds you are of sound mind and within your rights. Good luck to you." It was over. Just like that. The gavel's crack was the sound of a door slamming shut on a nightmare.
Lyndon stared at me, not with rage anymore, but with a hollow, stunned defeat. Jocasta gathered her things, refusing to look at me. They were ghosts already. They came to collect their things under the watchful eye of a sheriff's deputy I'd requested. They were quick, efficient, and silent. They took their modern furniture, their clothes, their electronics. They left the souvenirs of their occupation, stains on the carpet, a cracked tile, the lingering scent of discord. When the last box was loaded into a rented truck, Lyndon paused at the front door. He looked back at me, standing in the foyer. For a second, I saw the ghost of the boy again, scared and lost. "I hope you're happy, Gran," he said, his voice empty. "You've got your house and your money, all alone." "I was already alone, Lyndon," I said quietly, "the moment you decided I was a mark and not your grandmother." He flinched, turned, and walked out. The door closed. The deputy tipped his hat and left. The silence that descended was absolute. It was mine. I walked from room to room, reclaiming them. I opened the windows to let in the spring air, to blow out the memory of them. I went to my study, keyed in the code, and took out Gerald's picture. I held it as I sat in our living room in the chair where he used to read the paper. The grief was a physical weight, but it was clean. It was for what was lost, not for what was stolen. I hadn't just protected my assets. I'd protected my right to my own story, to my own mind. She's old, she won't understand. I understood enough. I understood betrayal. I understood love. And I understood the fierce, unbreakable will to protect one's own soul. A few days later, Davis called. He'd heard from Lyndon. "Mom, he told me what happened at court. Is it all true?" "It's all true, Davis," I said, exhausted. "The documents, the proof, it's all with my lawyer. You can see it if you wish." A long pause. I'm so sorry, Mom. I should have listened. I should have come." "Yes," I said simply. "You should have." We talked a while longer, the conversation strained but thawing slightly. The bridge to my son was damaged, but not beyond repair. That would be a project for another day. It's autumn now. The leaves on the sycamore outside are turning gold. The house is quiet, but it's a peaceful quiet. I've rehung the stained glass lamp, the crack repaired by a skilled artisan. My silver trays are polished and displayed. Astrid comes over for tea every Thursday. We're starting a neighborhood watch for elder fraud, a small support network. I volunteered to give talks at the local senior center, not with the sensational story,
but with practical advice. Check your statements. Know your rights. Trust your gut. Soren Vanguard and I have lunch once a month. He grumbles about the state of the world, but always asks after my garden. He's become a friend. The restraining order is permanent. The trust is secure. I'm not a victim. I'm a survivor. Some mornings, I still feel a pang when I make coffee for one. But then I sit at the sun-drenched kitchen table with the bluebird mug, and I look out at my garden. I am here. I am free. I am myself. The hook of the story was the humiliation, the betrayal in my own kitchen. The payoff isn't just a frozen account or an eviction. It's this quiet mourning. It's the unshakable knowledge that they were wrong. I did understand. I understood enough to save myself. So if you're watching this and you feel underestimated, overlooked, or preyed upon because of your age or your circumstance, remember this. Your understanding is your power. Your voice is your weapon. Use them. Build your bunker. Fight your quiet war. And one morning, you too might just find yourself sipping your coffee in the peaceful, earned silence of your own life, having freed yourself before breakfast. If this story resonated with you, please don't hesitate to like this video and subscribe to the channel so we can share more with each other. Please leave a comment and let me know where you're watching from.